Hey, internet. Look at that sweet, sweet pouch. You know you want one. Carver's Customs, y'all. You probably already know that if you watch my videos, but if you don't, get over to Facebook, Carver's Customs, Rachel Carver, Anthony Kova. They'll hook you up. Oh, what's in the pouch? Ooh, Chakra. So if you watch my top 10 video, you know how I feel about this guy already. But I wanted to go into it a little bit more since the last video I did, it shared some airtime with the Turnian, and it was just kind of an out of the box. And I wanted to talk a little bit more in depth about this guy. So I'm not 100% sure. I'm getting in the habit of doing this, and I really shouldn't, but I should watch that previous video and see if there's anything I want to elaborate on. But, well, we didn't do that, and we already started recording, and I'm on limited time, and, well, I think we could just run with it as is, so yeah, look at this guy. So the Chakra. So this is the, currently, oh look, you can really see me in the weights there. This is the mirror polish version, of the Chakra. It's the high-end line, currently the high-end until the Kickstarter backers rewards come out, where they come out with the Boss, which I think is going to be a little bit more high-end, but a much different design. So this is sort of like an elaborated design of the Namaste, where basically you're a little larger, you're a little thicker, the corners are cut off just a little bit because it is bigger if it continued going out to a point. I think that would still be fine, but it just kind of helps separate it, and then it's got these little raised weights. So one of the things I kind of wanted to touch on right up front was talking about the cost of this a little bit, and especially with the polished version that I've got, since they're not going to be offering the polished version anymore, just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what goes into a spinner when a spinner is made, especially made sort of to a degree by hand in the USA. So obviously this thing is machined, but with the increased weight and size of the material on this guy, as well as these raised weights that are part of the body, you know, they're not separate weights, they add a lot of machining and tooling work to these guys. So there's a little bit more material, there's a little bit more machining and tooling work that's required. And then especially with the polished version, I actually reached out to Chris Branch about this, because I had been doing a bunch of my hand polishing videos, and I just kind of wanted to get an idea of what goes into polishing by this. So I believe they use, you know, some buffing wheels and other things like that, but each polished Chakra was taking them 40 minutes to an hour to do on top of everything else. So just to get it off the machine and get it polished, they were putting in an extra hour of work. So that's part of the reason why, you know, there's still a lot of love and care and stuff that happens by hand after it comes off the machine. But the amount of work they were putting into the polished Chakra, they just couldn't really continue to offer it at 90 bucks, which is what the spinner cost. The Chakra cost 90 bucks. But they did come out with a number of other finishes. When the Chakra first came out, they were only offering it in polished, or I'm not sure if it was machined or brushed or their industrial finish. But now you can get them with their, especially in the copper, with the fletching design, with the lines coming out, the radiant, I think it's radiant or radiance design. They also offer it in their industrial finish with the polished weights. So the little bumps here are polished, but then the rest of it has their industrial finish, which is a really cool finish. You really have to see to appreciate. It's somewhere between polished and machine finished. It's just got this really nice kind of look where you're almost looking through the material to see the machine mark. So they're pretty cool. So and they've also started coming out with new buttons, you know, so you asked and they listened. A lot of people had concerns that the buttons were really one of the things they just didn't like the look of. So look at this guy now. Look at this with those Zen buttons. So they also make buttons designed after their patterns. So they've got web, sort of like spider webs. They've got the orbital buttons. They've got a bunch of different style of buttons. The flat caps, which just have one raised ring, and then they're flat in the middle. And if you saw my video of the top 10, you know I said that these are aluminum, but I really like how they feel for being as light as they are. So there's just something about them where they're just the right weight with the rest of this, because this is kind of a heavy spinner. We're weighing in at 3 ounces, so I don't know what that is in grams, right around the 100 gram mark, I believe. We got that sexy 1-drop bearing in there, and then boom, number 22, y'all, because I love me some the number 2. So it's got an O-ring holding it in there, so you just use a little pin or something to pull the O-ring out, and you pop the bearing right out. But that O-ring gives the bearing some softness, so it takes that 1-drop bearing up another step. I didn't really think of that when I was am I putting these on the right way? I didn't really think of that when I was yeah, these caps, by the way, are specific to one side, since the bearing isn't completely centered in there, with the way that O-ring retention method goes. So you got to make sure you put the caps on the right way. What was I saying? Yeah, so that O-ring gives the bearing a certain softness. You know, it's not just held in there completely firm, so it just kind of allows everything, it gives it that one little extra level of smoothness. And I didn't really realize that when I was talking about how I'm like, you know, this thing feels smoother than a Trillium, and a Trillium feels completely smooth, right? So yeah, that bearing retention method is a winner. It's unique to them. I'm not aware of anybody else doing that. So I don't know if they can patent that, or if they're trying to patent it or protect it, but it is a really sweet retention method with a one-drop bearing. I'm not sure what that would do for other bearings, and I haven't tried swapping other bearings in there because I like the way this feels. So let's talk about the feel of this guy. I think the best analogy I can make, I also made in my top 10 videos, so I guess you should just go watch that if you haven't watched it. But this thing feels like you're playing with water, especially the polished version that I've got. Everything is so well rounded, and it's just so smooth. You really don't appreciate it. You know, if, you know, polished isn't your thing. Again, they offer in other finishes, but just everything is so rounded on this guy. I love doing this. Spin it and then just slow it down. Just let the bumps run across your finger. Oh man, that is so satisfying. It's so nice. This is a winning fidget spinner. It's very, very zen-like. It's hard to describe. Just everything kind of like melts away with this thing. It's crazy. It's hard to explain. It's hard to understand. Look at that little warp. So we're sitting in the shade today. We're trying to learn our lesson and not overheat the phone. But we're still able to get some good warps in here. So anyway, you want to try to push and pull this guy, even with these thinner caps, they're not quite as big as the chunky buttons. You still get some good grabs from the side, which kind of give it a different feel. You can still get some good grabs. I love grabbing on the side of this knuckle to do my finger pulls and flicks, but everything just catches right where it needs to. Really, really nice shell. So it's earned its spot definitely in the top 3. Again, right now it's currently sitting at number 2, behind the titanium. I actually have them carrying this guy with me today, or not titanium, tungsten. Get off me, bug. Tungsten dry fidget, which is a completely different beast. Still very fun to fidget with, but yeah, I think, you know, the big arguments that people had, I think the last remaining one, the last standing argument, was the buttons, and they've changed that. So get yourself over there. The Chakra being a little pricier at the $90 range, I completely get it if you're afraid to jump in at that, and I would too if I were you, and that's not where I jumped in. Go over and get yourself a Namaste. If you like the feel of the Namaste, this kind of takes it up that one level. The Namaste you can get in for 45 bucks. You know, they do drops every Thursday at 8 Pacific, so 11 Eastern if you're like me. Get in on those drops, get yourself a WooSah. They're nice. Then you get to be part of the family too. Once you get a WooSah and you appreciate it and you realize what's going on and you join the Facebook group and you're chatting with people and everybody loves everybody, like, the internet's got hate all over the place, yet there's a few pages out there, a few groups, a few people that are just full of all the love. And WooSah is definitely one of them. So you see those little reflections on my finger? Yeah, this thing reflects light. It's really nice. It also, we're not seeing it out here. I think you need to watch my top 10 video for the way it dances with the light in person. It has this really cool lighting effect, the way these curves bounce the light as it spins around, which your guys aren't going to be able to see, but you do see it in my top 10 videos. So I think I've referenced my top 10 video enough, and I think I've talked this guy up enough. You got to get yourself a WooSah, y'all. It's just, it really is that good as you think it is. Like, this deserves grail status up there with so many other spinners, and at 90 bucks for what this is, really can't be beaten, y'all. So, WooSah. Oh man, that feels so good. You guys don't even understand how good those little bumps feel, just slowing it down gently on your finger, just the way they just whoop, whoop, whoop. That is so satisfying. You don't even know. You don't even know unless you have one, and then you do know. And if you have a Chakra and you haven't been slowing it down very gently on those bumps, you're doing it wrong. You got to try that. So, all right, we're just going on and on now. So, Hobby Timmy, seal of approval. WooSah coming through again. Home runs. Great company. So glad to see them getting the success they deserve, because they're making a great product and they're great people. So, not much else you can say, but got mad love for y'all. Maybe we'll warp. Peace.